All right, let's get right into it. We're talking about a loophole, a huge one that was hiding in plain sight and could have affected, well, basically half the people on the planet with a smartphone. Serious. So let me ask you something. Think about WhatsApp. Have you ever wondered if some random person, a total stranger who doesn't even have your number, could just check and see if you're on there? Well, for a long, long time, the answer was a big fat yes. And we're not talking about a few people here and there. No. The method we're going to break down could have been used to check, get this, 3.5 billion phone numbers. I mean, billion with a B. The scale is just, it's mind boggling. Yeah, so what we're really looking at here is a massive privacy hole that was just sitting there in WhatsApp. It basically gave anyone the power to check almost any phone number in the world and see if it was an active account. And the craziest part? This wasn't some super secret hacker thing buried deep in the code. Nope, it was right there in a feature you've probably used a million times, the new chat button. It's a perfect example of that classic tug of war, right? Convenience versus security. So you're probably wondering, how did this actually work? You might be picturing some complex, Mission Impossible style hack, but the reality was way, way simpler than you think. It all boiled down to three pretty simple steps. 1, you use the new chat feature. 2, you write a little script to automate that process so you're not doing it by hand. And 3, you just waltz right past WhatsApp's super weak limits that were supposed to stop exactly this kind of thing. Okay, so the key thing here is a concept called rate limiting. The analogy is perfect. Think of a bouncer at a club door, right? They only let a few people in at a time to keep things under control. That's what rate limiting is supposed to do for an app. But in this case, the bouncer was basically taking a nap. WhatsApp's rate limiting just wasn't up to the job. And what happens when the bouncer's asleep? The floodgates open. Because those limits were so weak, these automated scripts could just fire away, checking millions of numbers every single hour. It was like a fire hydrant of data, just gushing out. So naturally, you're asking, okay, so what was the bug? What line of code was broken? And this is where the story gets really interesting. Because here's the twist. There wasn't a bug. The code wasn't broken at all. What this was a flaw in the design itself. And that difference between a bug and a design flaw, it's everything. Let me break it down. A bug is when the code messes up and does something unexpected. But an insecure design, that's when the code works perfectly. It does exactly what it was told to do. The problem is that the plan, the blueprint itself, was unsafe from the start. They never thought about how it could be abused. The feature was working as intended, but the intention itself was the problem. And, of course, we have to give credit where it's due. This whole thing was uncovered by a team of researchers led by Gabriel Gegenhuber. And for finding it, they actually got a pretty decent payout from Meta's bug bounty program, which shows you that, yeah, once they knew about it, the company definitely took it seriously. All right, so you might be thinking, okay, someone can see my number is on WhatsApp, so what? What's the big deal? Well, here's why it matters. When you scale that up, even little bits of harmless data can become an absolute goldmine for the bad guys. Think about what was exposed: your profile pic, your about text, and your online status. By itself, for one person, that's not much. But when you collect that for millions of people, suddenly you have a very powerful, very valuable database. And who's buying this database? You've got your spammers, who now have a beautiful, verified list of active phone numbers. You've got scammers, who can use your picture and your status to make their phishing attacks way more personal and believable. And then you have serious, targeted attackers, who use this stuff for recon. You know, this whole story really boils down to one huge lesson. It's a big takeaway that doesn't just apply to WhatsApp. It applies to pretty much every app and every piece of tech we use every day. And here it is. This is the whole point. Security can't be something you bolt on at the end. It has to be baked in from day one. Because if you don't think about security in the design phase, even the most harmless-looking features can become enormous vulnerabilities waiting to happen. So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. As you go through your day, scrolling and tapping on all your apps, what other harmless little features are you using? And more importantly, do you think the people who built them really thought about all the ways they could be turned against you?